What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Runnin podcast here on the Blue Wire Podcast Network and Blue Wire Hustle. I am your host, Najee Adams, and today we have a very, very special episode with a very, very special guest. Let me just go ahead and introduce him. Nick Ercolano, Nick BDGE, a man of many names. You feel me? How you doing today, bro?
I'm good, man. I always wonder how I'm going to be introduced because most people fuck my last name up, so they just end up going with Nick BDGE, and then I'm like, wait, do you even know what my name is? So I appreciate you throwing out like the 7 different variations. Let me know that you're a real one.
Did I get it right, or did I
Yeah, you did. It was spot on. It was beautiful.
Boom. There we go. See, I was practicing, bro. I was practicing.
I appreciate that.
So boom, yeah. Before we get into everything, I just wanted to say thank you for coming on the pod. I know it's a busy time for you, basically like smack dab in the middle of fantasy football off season. So I just wanted to say I appreciate you for taking some time to come on the pod, bro.
Of course, man. I'm always down to chat about different things, whether it's fantasy football, life, content, podcast, whatever today takes us towards. I'm down for it. So I'm happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, bro. Love to hear it. So before we get into like everything else, basically what I do at the beginning of every podcast is like I do this thing called Song of the Week, right? And so it's to give my listeners like some new stuff to add to their playlist, because when I have all types of different guests on, like you get all types of different music. So you end up coming up with like a pretty unique playlist. And so basically every week I give a song, my guest gives a song, and then I add it to a playlist I haven't released yet. So I have the playlist, but in like 2 weeks, I'm gonna release like a playlist on Twitter. It's gonna be a banger. So just watch out for it. I'm gonna tag you in and everything. It's gonna be great. And so yeah, bro. So song of the week. What have you been listening to this week? Heavy? Any song, any genre, any artist?
Yeah, so I saw this on the show sheet and I thought this was dope. I was like, this is really, really like a fantastic idea. I'm someone who's like very I have a podcast or music playing like 24/7 in the background. So this got me excited. I'm like, yeah, I would definitely listen to this playlist. I don't know how it's going to flow with one another, but like, that's kind of how my playlists work too. Like if I have a playlist that I just call Now, it's just shit that's stuck in my head. And it goes anywhere from like sad music to hip hop to blue, you know what I mean? It's all over the place. So I'd imagine that's what this is going to end up being.
100%.
The song most stuck in my head right now is by a guy named Ty. I don't know if this guy's like actually popular or not. I found him on TikTok. His name's Verdes, TAI. Verdes, and the song's called "I Deserve to Be Alone." It's all lowercase. Yeah. Like it's exactly how you think it would feel. So it's catchy as shit, but it's a sad song. I like sad songs. I don't know why. I like things that make me emotional or move me, and this song has just been like in my head for a week or two nonstop. So that will be my addition to the playlist.
Boom. Nah, TikTok be having some bangers, bro. There's a lot of bangers on like songs in the playlist are gonna be from TikTok. Like it's crazy. You just find when you're scrolling, like you just find so much good music. But my song is also one of those like sad songs, one of those like late night drive songs. You just put it on. Everyone has those nights, you feel me? And so mine is called Head Over Hills. It's by this artist called Tusi. I think he's from like Syracuse, but yeah, it's like a in your feelings type of song. So we'll get a nice little vibe to the playlist when these come back to back. You better be sad when you're listening to it.
Hell yeah.
And so boom, you kind of just get into like before the fantasy football stuff, like just to learn a little bit more about you and like where you come from and like just you as a person. Where are you from, bro?
So I was actually born in Brooklyn, down in Coney Island. I only lived there for a couple of years. Ended up moving to Jersey with my mom and my sister really young. And we were in Jersey for, I want to say like 25 years. And I eventually moved back into Brooklyn, to Williamsburg for a year. Moved into Manhattan for a year after that, and then moved downtown, still in Manhattan, which is where I'm currently at right now. So I've been in the tri-state area like yourself pretty much my whole life. And I don't know if I could see myself kind of being anywhere else.
I feel that. No, I was like teetering back and forth from maybe trying to move to LA, but like it's just not like I've taken a trip to LA and it's not the same as New York. Like it's a very unique experience you get here.
Yeah, the one place that I could see myself living outside of this is San Diego. I spent some time there. Yeah, I almost pulled the trigger. A couple of years ago, I was like, this is when I first got into doing all this content stuff. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I could work from my laptop, whatever. I was traveling around way more than I probably should have at the time. I needed to like get into a routine, but I ended up in San Diego. I ended up like crashing on my friend's couch for a long ass time. I was like, I'm going to book a one-way ticket. I stayed on his couch for like a month and a half, 2 months. And I started looking at apartments in San Diego, and I was like, yo, I love it here so much. And it was some of the best, like, you know, it wasn't that long of a time. It was only a month or two, but it was some of the best experiences I've had. And that always reminds me of San Diego. And I'm like, yo, those are the only two places. It's either New York or San Diego, probably no in between. But now that I'm back here, man, now that the energy's back up in New York, it's
hard to leave.
hard to get pulled away from it.
Before I ask you the next thing, bro, I just want to say that shirt is fire. The little BDGE shirt, that's gas.
You're gonna have to give me the address. I'll send you over. I just got like 10 samples yesterday.
That's crazy. Got you after the show, bro. That's hard. So like, how did you first get into fantasy? Like, when you were like thinking about building your brand, like, how did you know that this was kind of what you wanted to build off of?
I started playing fantasy when I was young. I was probably like, I don't know, 13 or 14 or something. I played in a league with like my friends in my hometown, and we would like ride our bikes around our town all day, end up at the public library. We'd go on Yahoo and like start drafting teams, like mock drafts. We'd be like the guys in the leagues that just did 48 different drafts and never actually like participated throughout the league. You know, I'm glad best ball came around now, because that kind of solves that problem for people, like what we used to do. So we started playing, you know, it was very like normal kids kind of shit. And we got our serious league going where we did it year over year over year. And I kept winning. I probably won like 3 or 4 out of the first 5 or 6 years. And I was like, yo, I'm like actually kind of good at this stuff.
A bit of a humble brag, you know?
Yeah, I was, I mean, listen, I thought I was like good. So I was like, let me spread my wings a little bit. I genuinely feel like I could help people out there. Let me start spreading the things that I feel like I know about fantasy football. And when I look back on it, like, I was so bad. Like the things I was saying make absolutely no fucking sense. So it's like a humble brag, but it's also like really embarrassing had we had any like evidence of what I was putting out there. So I started blogging. I made a blog first. I realized pretty quickly that I absolutely like hated writing. It was not for me. It's not what I like to do. I'm much better, you know, in front of a microphone. I'm better on camera. That just came way more comfortable to me. It really, none of this, I'm going to be honest, like none of this stuff was a very, very like laid out vision or plan when I first started. It was a very genuine, like, yeah, I feel like I could help people in some way or another. I feel like I'm good at this. Let me try to get my message out there. And then it's kind of like a subconscious path of how businesses operate nowadays. It's like, we have a message to get out. How do we reverse engineer it to get out there to the masses? And when I'm, you know, 17, 18 years old, like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just like Googling around, where can I make videos? How do I make videos? How do I get them out to the masses? You know, what platforms are there for me to experiment with this stuff? So in terms of like building the brand or the business or anything, that has come over such a long evolution of like what we've become up until this day. But from the start, it was just like a passion, a very pure, genuine passion.
No, I feel like, because I also wanted to ask you, like, what did you have like this blue, just winging it, but like you kind of explained, you were just kind of winging it, which is kind of like where some of the greatest stuff comes out of. You feel me? When you're just like going by however you feel like at the moment, because it's all genuine, you know.
You gotta wing it from the start, dude. Because if you don't have that, like, when I look back on that, it shocks me, like the pure energy and focus and ingenuity I had towards helping other people, and like how raw it really was. I'm like, I don't even know if I have that in me anymore. So the fact that I did have it when I was like 18, 20 it's such like a welcoming feeling. And knowing that I've had that before, like knowing what that actually feels like is something that I feel you can't really do impactful things without that to begin with. Because if you don't feel that way from the start, it's like it's destined to fail, because you're not going to push yourself when shit gets really hard. And you know, when you do need to push yourself, like you're going to fall back on telling yourself like, I don't really care about this that much. I'm not that passionate about it. Am I here to help people? Am I here to help myself? Am I doing it for the wrong reasons? And like that shit always plays itself out over the long run. So I got in it for the right reasons. And I think realistically, that's why the foundation of everything we're doing has, you know, played out.
Nah, I feel that. So like where did like the BDGE name, like Big Dogs Gotta Eat name, come from? And like why was it important for you to make it a fantasy football lifestyle brand? Like what is, because like in your like the YouTube header thing, it says like the first fantasy football lifestyle brand, but like what does that mean?
So okay, so the name, I think when I started blogging. I don't even remember what the name of the blog was, to be honest. It was probably something like some corny play on word with my name, Nick. And then my YouTube channel, when I started it, still to this day, just Nick Ercolano, just my name. Big Dogs Gotta Eat came after college. I remember when I started getting serious about like, okay, we need a brand name, we need a company name or something. What can I do? And I was like, let me figure out something that I feel like represents where I'm at in my life, which is still very much in like about to graduate from college, but at the same time, I feel compelled to like work really hard for something because I have a vision, I have a passion behind something. The elongated story is the fact that we had senior week in college, and senior week is like the last week before we graduate, and we planned a bunch of these things where it was like a bar crawl, a house party crawl. It was like one each day of the week leading up to graduation was like a different event. So we did all these things, and one of the days was beer Olympics. And it was the entire senior class. I went to Marist College. And there was 84 teams in the beer Olympics, and
84
teams in the beer Olympics, and it was like teams of like 8 people. So it was legit like 800 people competing in the tournament. And we're rolling through the rounds, right? Like we win the first round, second round, third round, fourth, whatever. We're in the semifinals. There's fucking
just tanks.
There's
just
four,
tanks.
dude, out of control. Like my tolerance at this time is like disgusting when I think back on it. I was so good at chugging things. I don't really know why I was gifted with it at the time, but we're down to like the final 4 teams, and it's 4 teams left. And the last event in the beer Olympics is like a boat race. And that's basically like you put your 4 best players on the table against their 4 best, and you just chug your cup. It's full cup beer, chug your cup as fast as you can. And I was like the anchor, I remember. So I'd be the last one to go on the team, and we'd run it. And I remember like in the semifinals game, we got to the end, and like something we had been yelling the entire tournament every time we won was Big Dogs Gotta Eat. It was like a thing that we just started yelling. And like me and my friend group in that 6 or 8 people that were in the beer Olympics just continued yelling that throughout the entire tournament. So when I like slammed the last cup down and we won the thing, I remember us like just like straight up we were hammered at the time, right? Because we're like 10 rounds deep. We're barking, we're like, ooh, Big Dogs Gotta Eat, Big Dogs Gotta Eat. You know, we're screaming it the whole time. And I think back on that, and I was like, that's a pretty funny name. I feel like that kind of encapsulates a few things. And when I think about, you know, it's like a silly story, but when I think about Big Dogs, it's really more of people that are willing to put themselves out there and be creative and pursue things that make them uncomfortable and make them vulnerable. And I think that's like the message and the energy I'd like to give off anytime I come onto a podcast or anytime I go on camera, that I'm 100% myself. And I hope that resonates with other people and like inspires them to also be themselves. And that's who I consider, big dogs. And when I say gotta eat, it's more like they're gonna eat, right? The people that are willing to step outside of their comfort zone are the ones that are gonna be able to push themselves to do things that really like move the needle, that push the boundaries, that cause change in the world, and that do inspire other people. So that's kind of where the name comes from. It comes from a little bit of the college thing. I was like, oh, I love that name. It was just like a fun time in my life, and I think it represents like who I am as a person, but it definitely has a little bit of a deeper meaning to me when I get into it.
So did y'all win the beer Olympics?
Fuck yeah, we won.
There we go. That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. And but now, like the thing you were saying about how like being because there's a lot of people when you like look at their podcasts or their YouTube videos, like they portray a persona, but then when you actually like have a face-to-face convo, it's not the same. But like with you, I can already tell like you're the same person on your YouTube videos, on your podcast that you are talking to me right now. So I just think that that's dope, bro. And so like props to you for that, because
there's no other way to do it. I feel like you can't. I don't know. Nowadays, if you want to be if you're trying to give out value to people, it's like you need to be like the bottom line for people as content creators that I think are going to be able to succeed over the next 5-10 years. Like the bottom denominator for every single one of them is going to have to be this type of like authenticity. I don't ever want to have to, if my mom walks in the room right now, I'm going to talk to her the same way I'm talking to you. If my best friend walks in the room, same thing. My sister, my uncle, you know what I mean? Like I'm not someone that's going to like change depending on who walks in the room. And I feel like the audience just senses that. They know that, and they become really comfortable with you really quickly when they know that, because they feel like they are on the level of your mom or your brother or your sister or your best friend or whatever. I think it's just so important.
No, I feel it. And like I already sense like the vibe like is super like comfortable and like conversation. Like I love that. Like you're like 28, right? 27, 28?
Yeah, 28.
28, boom. So like you've been building this brand throughout your 20s. Like, what have you found is like the most rewarding part, but also like, have you felt like you've had to sacrifice certain things that like other 20 somethings wouldn't?
Yeah, for sure. Um, Tough question. Yeah, I feel like I've been in my 20s for a long time, but I feel like I'm starting to get up there in age, man. I feel like I'm in the jungle here in Manhattan, like my
Mm-hmm.
location in my apartment. I'm like, I think I'm like a little bit too old to be where I'm at right now because of I've worked so hard to get to like where I'm at right now. And yeah, for sure, I've sacrificed things. I've sacrificed a lot of like social events. I've sacrificed probably relationships. I've sacrificed a lot of things, but I wouldn't give that up for anything because like when you have a really strong feeling or passion about something, it's like you start to value that above those other things, right? It's like it's a give or take. So the things that I mean, when I really originally left my job, it was because I valued my freedom and I valued most importantly like my creativity, and I hated the fact that like when you have a 9 to 5 job, it's like you can only be intellectual and you could only be creative and you can only your hard work needs to be done in this time frame or it doesn't matter. And I'm like, that's such a stupid fucking way to like have the work have a workforce, you know, like
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense. And I'm glad that like honestly COVID, that was one of the good things that came out of COVID, is that reset that. It's like we don't need to be together all the time. We don't need to be on this stupid schedule that doesn't make sense to begin with. I think it's kind of gone to like one side of the spectrum really heavy where it's going to eventually get back to the middle. But yeah, I mean, listen, like when you believe so strongly in something, you don't always feel like you're sacrificing in the moment. But looking back, yeah, sure. I'm sure I've sacrificed a lot, but a lot of it feels like it was probably some shallow sacrifice as well. Like, you know, probably missed some parties, probably missed some things like that. But I'd rather have been chasing what I felt really strongly about. And obviously I kind of made the right decision because now I have the freedom and the flexibility to live my life how I want. But I would say, you know, when you are like younger coming up, it's really, really difficult um, to not put yourself like in a box as a creator. You know, you kind of get told like what you should be doing or what you shouldn't be doing. And I think one of the biggest things that this like content thing can really fuck with you is the mental aspect of it. Even when you're free and even when you have this like lifestyle where you can kind of do whatever you want, and I'm able to like wake up when I want and do whatever I want throughout the
Yeah.
day for the most part. Still very mentally draining, man, because you're always thinking like what's the next thing. Like you have to innovate. Like every single year I have to figure out where I'm making money from, right? Because some affiliate deals or sponsorships or products or whatever just don't sell or they don't happen year in and year out. So it's like it's very tough mentally, and the easiest way to like drive your mental health down is by like really worrying about what other people are saying or what, you know, how they're looking at you or if they're judging you or things like that. So when you're starting off like that, that's the most difficult thing. I think like the first year or two is definitely a mental game. And then after that, it becomes kind of like a physical game, just like how hard you're willing to work for it.
I feel that. I feel like everybody, like the fact that you're able to just wake up whenever you want and like do what and like work for yourself, I think is the biggest motivational factor. Because like once you start doing that and you're successful at it, like no one wants to go back to working for someone else. Do you feel me? But like everyone feels like they want to do that, but like so many people just don't go for it. And so like for you to go for it, like that's dope, bro. For you to like quit your job and like actually like jump out on that ledge and like make it work for yourself is pretty sick. Um, and
It's yeah, I mean, like it never really felt like not to sound like weird, but like it never really felt like I had a choice. Like when I was working at my jobs, it got to the point where when I left, I left because I had to. Like I couldn't really breathe at my job. I was like, this is suffocating me. And I'm like 22, 23 years old. I can't be
a
sitting here. Yeah, like I can't be sitting here wasting fucking 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day doing something that's literally getting me nowhere in life. And like
meaningless,
yeah,
meaningless.
like I have other things that I'm excited about or passionate about. Why would I waste my time on this? I also, you know, you have to look at where you're at subjectively in life too. I didn't have like a lot of responsibilities at the time. I was still living at home with my mom, so it wasn't like I was paying rent or it wasn't like I was paying a mortgage or anything. Speaking of my mom, there she is, checking
What's
up
up,
on me
Mama
even at
Ercolano?
yeah, even at 28, she's always worried about me. Yeah, so I had been working full time for 3-4 years or whatever, saving up money. So when I did make the leap to leave my job, I had already been building up some of this, a little bit of an audience on the social side of things. I had financial backings, plus didn't have a lot of expenses because I live with my mom. So it's a very different equation for a lot of people. So making the jump has to be a subjective thing to you, right? Like you're always going to go on fucking Instagram or TikTok or whatever and see somebody that's younger than you, more famous than you, got more money than you, taller than you, better looking than you, fat, all those fucking things. It's going to happen every single time you open up those apps. You start comparing yourself to those people, like that's when you're going to fucking lose. So
You can't do it. Like you can't
do it. Yeah, you got to be real aware about your situation and then kind of work from that.
Exactly. Nah, 100%. And like before we get into like the fantasy stuff, I just wanted to say like I read like your ode to the Roaring Twenties like a while ago, and I know you said you're not like a writer, bro, but that shit was inspirational, my boy. That shit was fire.
That was like one of the only blog posts I've written in the last like 10 years. I am actually pretty proud of that. I think I just sat down one day, kind of blacked out, wrote the entire fucking thing, and it came out pretty well. I just had a lot on my chest, I guess, when I wrote that, and I was like, this is fucking literally, that was like everything I've learned over the last 10 years. So I'm glad I was able to help somebody.
Of course, bro. And so like, yeah, we can kind of just like pivot into the fantasy stuff. So like the big thing right now in the whole fantasy community is unfortunately Cam Akers' injury. The season-ending Achilles is just horrible news. Everyone's hype on the Darrell Henderson train. Where do you stand, bro? Obviously, like it's tough. I know you were big on Cam Akers, and so what?
Brutal. Yeah, like I could talk about this in like 17 different angles right now. He was on almost all my dynasty teams. Gave up a whole lot of capital for him. He was like one of my guys I've been hyping up for the last like 3 months in season-long leagues. I know on your sheet you had some must-draft, must-own guys for the year. Like he would have been my number one pick. So this shit hurt, man. This shit hurt a lot. And now I'm sitting here thinking about the Rams situation. And like for the same reason that I like Cam Akers, I think you got to like Darrell Henderson. I don't think he's as talented. He doesn't have like the size necessarily. I don't think he'll be a 3-down workhorse, but the situation is pretty fucking sexy. So I'd say where I'd jam him into is probably a consistent low end RB2. I can't imagine a situation where they don't get another back involved. Where
I was going to say that. I was going to say that too.
For Cam Akers, I could have seen a situation where he was getting 70 to 75% of the touches, but like Henderson probably bordering around like 60. I don't know if it's going to be Xavier Jones. I don't know if they're going to bring in like a veteran running back or something, but I'm definitely not as high on Henderson as I was for Akers. I thought Akers had like unbelievable upside this year.
Nah, I'm with you. I don't exactly buy into the whole Sean McVay saying that they're confident and Darrell Henderson gave him the keys to the Ferrari of the run game. Like, I don't exactly believe that, but I mean, I guess we'll see as the offseason goes along whether or not they bring in someone else. I 100% agree. I don't think he's going to get the type of workload that I thought Cam Akers was going to get. Like, I had Cam Akers like the back of my first round, like early second. Darrell Henderson, I just don't. But like you said, I don't think the talent is there.
Just don't. Yeah,
I just don't. Like it's just it's simple as that.
I mean, his actions speak louder than words. I feel like they could have given Darrell Henderson so much work so many different times, and it was never
exactly
a thing, you know
exactly. And so yeah, like you kind of mentioned, that is the perfect segue into like the whole. So like I want to know from you, because everyone has those guys that like they can't leave the draft without, you feel me? I know I have mine, one in particular, my guy. It's pretty easy to tell who it is if you know what my name is. And then so like I would like to know like who's 3 guys you can't leave your draft without, and then like 3 guys that you want no parts of, and then like I'll kind of do the same.
All right. So in the first round, I think Zeke is a guy I'd imagine I'm going to have a lot of shares of, because he's starting to drop into like the end of the first, early second round. If you're in a super flex league, he keeps falling down the draft boards. I think people have this narrative that he's washed. I think most of everything that came out of last year with Zeke, and you talk about his numbers and his stats, had everything to do with Dak getting hurt and had everything to do with the entire offensive line getting hurt. But their O-line is healthy this year. I think PFF has them ranked top 5 entering the year. Dak's obviously healthy again. In those 4 or 5 games where Dak was on the field last year, I mean, they're the number 1 paced offense in the NFL, have been for 2 years. So Zeke was on pace for almost 90 targets. That's legit like Saquon type numbers right there. Yeah. So even if you think he fell off a little bit as a rusher, which I don't really think is the case, I think it was the O-line getting banged up. This
situation.
Yeah, this offense is going to be so fluid, bro. It's going to be fireworks in Dallas all day long. So I'm really in on a big bounce back for Zeke this year. Some other must draft guys, like, so I want one of the two pieces on the Chargers offense. Another offense I think is just going to be straight fireworks. Is Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen. Both of them with Herbert under center. They have like the most improved offensive line in the NFL this year. They signed All-Pro Corey Linsley. They drafted Rashawn Slater. They're bringing a couple other guards that are pretty highly graded. And it's just Austin Eckler is already like one of the most efficient running backs in the NFL. And now you give him an O-line to work with. Now you give him a quarterback that's going to stretch the field with his arm. Hopefully a little bit more goal line action too, because Anthony Lynn is out of the picture. He was on target for, he was on pace for like 114 targets last year with Herbert as the quarterback. Insane. And then Keenan Allen, you flip that switch, and he was on pace for like 180 targets last year with Herbert under center. So it's like, dude, you could do no wrong. This offense, I don't see a way that they disappoint with Herbert coming into his second year, full starter, new coach, new offensive line, like fucking wheels up for everybody in LA.
No, I'm with you, bro. I'm super high on Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. Hell, I'm Herbert. I'm high on Mike Williams. Like I just the Chargers.
I'll grab some fucking anyone you want to throw into that LA offense, bro. Put them on the squad.
That's what I'm saying.
Fuck it. Cook it up. Let's go. Let's go.
100%, bro. I'm down for everybody on the Chargers. So like my must draft guy 100% is Najee Harris. One, he's my namesake. Two, like you gotta put on for the name. And so like for everyone else that I'm gonna say, I'm kind of just gonna go like kind of give like a couple bullet points, but I gotta get on my soapbox for Najee because it must be done. So like the two best things for me about drafting Najee is the value that he brings and the volume. Right now, like we're going off underdog ADPs, so right now, he's currently the 13th running back off the board. I feel like we're drafting him at his floor, to be honest. I feel like the concerns, the issues that people have, I feel like they're kind of priced in. And I feel like we can kind of thank CEH for that last year. People were super high on Clyde. And like, I'm not going to say I was one of them, but like I was high on Clyde, just not as high as everyone else. Like he was Andy Reid's guy, Mahomes' guy, first round running back, came off that LSU chip team. Like all systems were go for Clyde. He ended up finishing as the RB22. They bought 11. Things got a little messy. And so like, according to like Fantasy Football Calculator, he was being drafted like the 108, the 7th RB off the board, which is wild. And so like, he was kind of a bust in terms of where you drafted him. I think that Najee this year could be a legitimate league winner. I feel like the upside is huge. I feel like everybody that talks about fantasy talks about volume. Volume is king. Everyone knows that. And so I think Najee's going to get a lot of it. I think Mike Tomlin's proved time and time again that he's willing to like run a running back into the ground and make them a workhorse. Since 2014, the Steelers' top back has averaged like 86.6% of their fantasy points. Everyone knows how much Lev touched the ball. And then even when Lev went down, D'Angelo Williams was a fantasy god. And so like, I feel like it's not that hard to kind of project that for Najee. And so he's also a really great pass catcher. And I understand that everyone always talks about the offensive line. That's the number one issue. The Steelers have a shit offensive line. You could put me, you, Snacks, Animal, and Seth Rogen out there, and we would block just the same according to everyone else, right? And so like they don't have a great line. I get that, but like running backs have produced with bad O-lines before. If we just take into account last year, James Robinson finished as the RB7. The Jags were literally the shittiest team in the league, and PFF had them ranked as a bottom 10 O-line both this year, like upcoming, and last year. I mean, Dalvin Cook was the RB3 last year. Obviously, the talent discrepancy is there, but like the Vikings had the 26th ranked O-line. David Montgomery and Josh Jacobs, the RB6 and the RB8 last year. Both Bears and Raiders O-lines were pretty shit, bottom 12. You know what? The one thing they had in common was they were all top 6 in total touches amongst running backs. Since 2010, Steelers running backs have averaged 432 touches, and the starting back has averaged 333 of those touches when they've missed 4 games or less. That would have been the third most of the NFL last season, behind only Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry. Josh Jacobs and David Montgomery are the only other two to have 300 plus touches. So if you give them 300 touches, you feel me? Like, he's gonna be he could be like a top 5 running back. And so that's the type of upside I think Najee has. Fuck the O-line. I'm drafting him on every team I got.
All right, I feel that. I'm so, you know what? He was someone that right after the NFL draft, I was basically beating the same drum, and then I've cooled down a little bit just because I'm worried about the Pittsburgh offense overall just moving. Like I don't want all of his touches to be empty calorie touches where they're
I
just
feel
like,
that.
3-yard fucking plows between the 30-yard line, and then you have 15 of those, and you're like, oh, we got the volume, but he had 64 rushing yards. You don't get the goal line attempt, but he is a great pass catcher too. He's not just like a big thick bruiser that's only on the field for rushing downs. He should get the first down work, second down work, third down work. So the volume should be crazy. I'm probably going to be getting a couple of shares of Najee myself.
Boom. And then kind of my second guy. I feel like people are super down on him just because he had a really shit year last year. His name is the one and only Mr. Michael Thomas. 2019, he was an absolute god. He set the record for most catches in a season, 1,700 plus receiving yards. Everybody knows all that. He sprained his ankle week 1, and his entire season was fucked after that. With all of that standing, though, he still had the 4th highest target share of any wide receiver in the league when he was on the field, and he led the league in air yards. The QB change, I know, between Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, there are no Drew Brees. But like, if we already, I'm not really worried about Jameis. I feel like Jameis has shown us he gonna let that thing fly. So like, Michael Thomas, he gonna give Michael Thomas the ball. With Taysom Hill, in those from weeks 10 to 13, when Taysom Hill was primarily the quarterback, here were Michael Thomas's target numbers: 12, 6, 11, and 8. And for the 6 target game, he was a decoy. He only played 67% of the snaps. And so I feel like, and they let Emmanuel Sanders walk, and he had 19.5% of their targets. So now those are just vacant. And who else is in the wide receiver room for the Saints? Like, I can't even remember his name. People were super high on him last year.
Traquan.
Yes. Traquan.
They'll make up any fucking number of names out there to pretend that they got a wide receiver too in New Orleans, bro.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Traquan Smith isn't that guy. He's not. And
he's not that guy, pal.
He's not that guy, pal. And so between Kamara and Michael Thomas, like, Michael Thomas is gonna get his. Whether it's Taysom, Jameis, I don't care who's back there. They're gonna give Michael Thomas the ball.
He's just too good as a separator. I'm with you. I mean, his whole season was fucked last year because of the high ankle sprain and other injuries, and it is what it is. I don't think it's going to matter who's under center for the Saints this year. Michael Thomas is getting 30% of the targets. He's getting 40% of the air yards. Like, you don't really need to say more.
Boom. I wanted to ask you, bro, what's your thoughts on Tyler Lockett?
This is a tough one. I'm working on a piece of content where I'm looking at different teammates, different wide receiver teammates on the same team, and which ones I'm kind of hedging, which ones I'm probably going to pass on and whatnot. I haven't got to the Seahawks and Tyler Lockett. I am very high on DK Metcalf. I'm probably getting back around to Lockett. He was a guy I drafted in a lot of spots last year, and realistically, he had like 3 or 4 good games. And he finished as like the wide receiver 10 overall, but his consistency was so bad.
Horrible.
Yeah, I feel like this has been the case with Seattle almost every year over the last 4 years. They have a stretch. It's either the first half or the second half. Like, Russ either starts on fire and then cools off dramatically over the second half, or starts off cool, goes nuts over the second half of the year. And that's going to coincide with how the wide receivers do as well. So I feel like a lot of people have this down opinion on Lockett, but DK Metcalf was amazing first half of the year last year, not that good the second half of the year. It was the same thing. So I'm trying to look at this situation objectively and just say Tyler Lockett tied to one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the history of the NFL in Seattle, and Russell Wilson. They just extended him, so he's clearly a very big part of this passing offense. When you look at the moves that they made this offseason, they bring in a new offensive coordinator who's talked about going up tempo, which is going to be more passing volume. And his, Russ's efficiency is crazy. Anytime you give him volume, he's going to go nuts in the fantasy stats. So they draft Dwayne Eskridge and they signed Gerald Everett, which you could look at and say, hey, it's target competition. But it also says to me that they're looking to be a more pass-heavy offense. So I'm fine with Tyler Lockett where he's going in drafts. I'm not going to say he's like a target of mine, but he's not a guy I'm fading just because he had a few bad games last year.
No, I feel that. And so like I know a lot of people are thinking like, oh, the Seahawks are not gonna pass as much as they did last year. Because they like kind of let Russ cook, but they really only had 34.7. Like they pass attempts per game. That's how many attempts the Seahawks average per game when it comes to the passing game. They did sign a new offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron from the Rams. He spent 3 seasons as their pass game coordinator, and they never had a pass. They never attempted less passes than 35.5. So Russ actually might pass more, and if he does, and I feel like that can only mean good things for both DK and Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, the other thing there too is like, if they go more up tempo, a lot of that is going to be quick, short hitting passes, and that favors a guy like Lockett because you got DK just doing that every time. You got Lockett doing that every time. So it's like they're doing up tempo, boom, 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 boom. It's going to be a lot of Lockett might have a bunch of like 8 for 64 games, but in any kind of PPR move, like you're cool moving that way.
Yeah, you're chilling with that. Kind of like the last guy that I really like. I went running back, wide receiver, so I wanted to go tight end. I feel like I always there's always like those super hype tight ends, like the sleepers. And I feel like this is one of them, unfortunately. I usually like to go against the grain, but for this one I was sold. Tyler Higbee, I'm a really, really big fan of.
Okay.
The number one thing for me was the opportunity. Gerald Everett is gone. And like Jacob Harris is competition, but I don't think that he's going to be that much of a competition, like that much competition for Higbee. They did give him a 4-year, $31 million extension, showed some type of faith in him during his 2019 stretch. He was a god without Gerald Everett for those last 4 games, even though those 4 games made up like the vast majority of his fantasy points that year. In 8 games without Gerald Everett,
those 5 games are like 35% of his career receiving yards. I feel like
100%. No, you're not wrong at all. In 8 games without him, Gerald Everett since 2017, Higbee would have had a 16-game pace of like 116 targets, 90 receptions, 1,008 yards, 10 touchdowns. Would have been the tight end 3 in 2020. I know that always doesn't, like when you extrapolate numbers like that without any context, it doesn't always like lend to the player situation, but like in this situation I feel like it kind of does. He's and so like he's also one that whose ADP shifts depending on where you're drafting a lot. Like on Underdog he's a tight end 8, on Fantasy Pros he's a tight end 16. So like it really shows, like on Underdog obviously the drafts are way more competitive because people are like giving their actual money to do them. And so I feel like he could be a steal come draft day, depending on what the type of league you're drafting.
He'll definitely be going closer to the tight end like 15 range, I think, in most normal like friends and family leagues. The Underdog ADP is just like out of control. It's like anytime it's like Evan Silva says one thing and the guy shoots up 100 spots in the ADP, and they love Tyler Higbee over there. So that's the main reason why he keeps shooting up.
Exactly. And so, yeah, I'm a big Tyler Higbee guy. I feel like I have a couple more like tight end targets, and I know my league mates are going to listen to this and they're definitely going to steal Higbee from me, but it's all right because, I got him in the bag. And so, yeah, did you have anyone else that you were like super high on? What are your thoughts on Miles Sanders this year, bro?
I was waiting for you to switch over to the guys that we are not leaving our fucking drafts with, because Miles Sanders broke my heart in more ways than any amount of girlfriends can break my heart last year. And I still think
listen to the playlist, bro.
But that's what I'm saying, bro. That I was getting prepared for this podcast, and that's why Ty Verdes was on my playlist, because I knew I was going to have to talk about Miles Sanders. He would have had a big year last year if the O-line didn't get hurt, if he didn't get hurt. But you have a very small margin for error in the NFL, and his time as a workhorse, I feel like, is up already. They're kind of telling us what they want to do. And they didn't bring anyone that's like a big name in, but you're hearing the running backs coach, you're hearing the offense coordinator saying, we're not committing to a future workhorse. We got to have guys that catch passes. We got to have guys that block. We got to have bigger guys that work on the goal line. All that tells me is that it's going to be a committee. Like, they're already telling us it's a committee right now. So I'm not about to draft a running back. Like last year, I believed it wasn't going to be a committee. And when he got hurt, the first like 4 or 5 games, it wasn't. He was averaging like 25 opportunities a game. And then he got hurt again, and then he lost that chance. But now they're telling us that it's going to be a committee, and they bring in Kerryon Johnson. They re-sign Jordan Howard. They draft Kenneth Gainwell. They got, they have like 6 running backs. None of them are actually good, but they're all there, right? It's more of a volume than an efficiency game over there. But it just means that they're all going to have specific roles. So Sanders is the best running back in that backfield without a doubt. And I'm assuming he'll get a bunch of first and second down work. He'll have his big games because he breaks off 70-yard, 75, 80-yard runs every once in a while. I'm just not sold on how involved he is in the passing game. I don't know what they do on the goal line. I don't know if that offense is going to go to absolute shit. I like Jalen Hurts, but there's always a chance I could be wrong on that. And if I am wrong, you don't want the starting running back in a committee on a bad offense. So there's a lot of red flags when it cocomes to Miles Sanders. Player that you like, he's talented, but I think the opportunity that he could have been a workhorse back kind of eluded him last year, and I don't think he gets that chance back.
No, I'm with you. Miles Sanders is definitely a guy that I'm fading. Like, and I didn't have him last year. I wanted him last year though, but I just ended up not getting him.
Good for you. Good for fucking you.
So like the reason I didn't get him, our league does like we do a live draft, we do draft pick trades, and so I had 2 second round picks and not a third, and I had 2 early seconds. So by the time I picked again, he just wasn't there. This year I have 2 firsts, so I'm really gonna try and ball
So now,
out this.
now you're going to use one of those on Miles Sanders, right?
Exactly. No, I have 8 and 11. Miles Sanders at 8. 100%.
Miles Sanders, Najee Harris. Let's run. Yeah, let's go.
And so basically talking about guys we don't like. Mine's just kind of a situation. I'm not a big fan, and I have it here in the notes. It says these 2 running backs / Miles Sanders. So
there you go.
The Jacksonville backfield of James Robinson.
Etienne was my next guy up, bro.
And Travis Etienne. Yeah, I'm not a big fan. You could do Etienne, I'll do Robinson. For James Robinson, I feel like he was really good last year. He was incredible. He just burst onto the scene out of nowhere. Unfortunately, the coaching regime that he impressed is no longer there. And one of the first things that Urban Meyer did, signed Carlos Hyde, and then went and took a first-round running back of Travis Etienne. So they haven't shown much faith in him. But I do feel like he's more of a value than Travis Etienne. Not only, like I said, they signed Carlos Hyde. He literally said he wants the whole 1-2 punch with Etienne as the third down back. And so what made James Robinson so successful last year was all that volume. And now that we've taken it away, he's really not that attractive of a pick to me. And like even the goal line carries aren't guaranteed because I know damn well they're going to throw Carlos Hyde's big ass in there and he going to ram it into the goal line. So I feel,
And the other problem too is like Trevor Lawrence is a very mobile quarterback. Like he could do a Josh
Which
Allen
people
impression.
Underrate, I feel like.
Like if Trevor Lawrence finishes this year with 5 or 6 rushing touchdowns, I wouldn't be surprised.
No.
But the whole Jacksonville offense is probably going to run for 12, 10 rushing touchdowns, and that's a huge fucking portion of them if that were to happen. And Travis Etienne like falls in the same mold as Miles Sanders, where they're already telling you that they're going to be using a committee. Why are you using like a 4th-round pick, a 5th-round pick on a committee back that you have no idea? Like, here's the thing with Etienne too. It's not even like he has goal line upside, right? Like if Trevor Lawrence has 0 rushing touchdowns this year, there's a much better chance that James Robinson and Carlos Hyde combined for 10 than Travis Etienne gets more than 4. And yeah, he's a great pass catcher. Like full PPR, I'm a little bit higher on Etienne, but I still feel like this offense is fucking too weird for me to dip my hands into because I think we're gonna start using all these players in different molds. Like you look at who's the fucking head coach right now?
Urban Meyer.
Yeah, Urban Meyer and like what he's done with like Percy Harvins and what he's done with all those Curtis Samuels like weapon type players. I feel like we're just going to get 8 to 10 touches out of Travis Etienne. Some weeks it's going to be 22 yards. Some weeks it's going to be 76 yards. I'm sure he'll have like a couple big games because good players do that. I think Travis Etienne is a really good running back, but like the situation screams not to use an early round pick on it. We get so hyped up about these early round running back picks, and if they're not guys like Najee, where like we know Najee's going into a 20 touch role, right? Like nobody's denying it. If anyone's not on the Najee bandwagon, it's because they're not high on the offense. They're not high on the offensive line, but we know he's getting 20 touches. With Etienne, like he's very much like Miles Sanders' rookie year, like Deandre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers, all these rookie running backs. We love the talent. We get overexcited about pushing the talent into a starting role, and it tends not to happen until like week 10, 11, 12. So if you're cool with using your 4th, 5th round pick on a guy that might explode in week like 10, go for it. But that's just like not how I'm getting down with my draft.
And I feel like a lot of people are just scared of missing out on the breakout. Like, they don't want to miss out on that first year breakout. So they're like, fuck it. Like, I'm taking him now. If he breaks out, I'm a superstar. If he doesn't, then we'll try again next year. I'm personally okay with missing out on the breakout. Like, if he's super nice this year, cool. I'll just take him next year.
I also just I don't even think he has like a path to like he doesn't have a path to goal line work. And that is so important in fantasy football, right? There's just so many other players on that roster that are more equipped to handle the goal line work. So if you told me that like they traded James Robinson, then I'd be like, okay. Now we have something to talk about where Travis Etienne is like a 3rd round pick or something like that. But even if he gets 50% of the snaps and you could tell me he's catching 60 to 70 passes this year, how many touchdowns can we project him to score? Still like 5, and that's just not upside for me.
No, and that kind of leads us to my second guy. My second guy that I'm not high on at all. It's Mr. Juju Smith Schuster. I feel like
Is
it's
anybody high on Juju at this
that's
point?
what I'm saying. Like, I feel like, but the people that are, I feel like it's the Odell Beckham syndrome
I
with
was
like,
just about to say, can we throw OBJ and Juju like in the same fucking mold here and just get them out the
yes,
picture?
yes, please, please, please. So Odell, Juju, like they remember the talent and they remember seeing what they could be and what they could have been, and like the name carries more hype than the actual player produces. Had he signed somewhere else, like had Juju not went back to the Steelers, maybe I would have been a little higher on him, but that's not the case. And so he's still sharing targets with an emerging Deontay Johnson, who I personally love, and Chase Claypool, on top of now having a true workhorse and Najee Harris. Like things aren't really
He's the
shaping up.
fourth best player on his offense. He went from
100%.
he went from being like the dynasty wide receiver 1 2 years ago to being the fourth best player on like a mediocre offense. Bro.
It's
It's
crazy.
ugly.
It's crazy. And so, like last season, he had the lowest depth of target of the three wide receivers. It was like 5.5, and he got 8.6 yards per catch. What the fuck am I doing with a 5.5 depth of target? Like, what do you?
You need like 74 targets to have a good
That's
game.
what I'm saying. Like, come on now. And so, yeah, he was a wide receiver 22 last year, and he struggled when it came to man and press. He was pretty good in zone, but like when it came to man and press, he wasn't that great. And yeah, I'm just not. I don't see it with Juju. I think there is, like with every player, there's value to be had. Like if you're taking him as like the wide receiver 50 or some shit, then obviously he's going to produce on that. But if you're high on Juju, if you're taking him as like a top 25 guy, I could very well see him not finishing inside the top 25 wide receivers.
Yeah, I'm also. I'll throw some bread on the sides of the sandwich so we get out of the running back and wide receiver conversation for a second. But Joe Burrow is a guy. I play in all super flex leagues, so like quarterbacks are obviously very important. Joe Burrow is a guy where I feel like the offseason is filled with so much like dynasty and rookie talk that we get so excited about these dudes. And for sure, Joe Burrow is the face of this franchise in Cincy, but I don't think his redraft value reflects what we should project for this year. Like right now on Underdog, he's going off the board as the 9th quarterback right now. He's ahead of Tom Brady, Ryan Tannehill, Stafford, Aaron Rodgers. And I'm like, that's absurd. Like Tom Brady just threw.
That's absurd.
Tom Brady just threw for 4,600 yards and 40 fucking touchdowns. And you're going to take Burrow ahead of him.
Quietly too. Like it was a quiet.
So like, quiet. And now it's the second year in this Arians offense. And it's not even so much like I do like all these guys above Burrow, but one of the things that's enticing about Burrow is his mobility, right? Like he was going to run for a sneaky 350 and 4 touchdowns, but he's coming off this ACL tear. And
Yep.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, I lost your picture.
Oh, are we good now? Oh, it's down here.
Coming in. That shit always fucks with me, bro.
That's horrible, but whatever. We can let it rock.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, so Burrow, like one of the things I think that excited us as a prospect, he has that like sneaky athleticism, right? Add that on because he's not throwing for 4,640 touchdowns, right? Like Tom Brady's probably going to give us again this year. So you need that rushing ability if you're going to be drafting him above him. And I'm like, he's 9 months removed from an ACL tear. He was getting hit as much as any quarterback in the NFL, and they made some moves on their offensive line, but they're not like an above average offensive line. He's still going to be taking a bunch of hits. I like the weapons they brought in, but like to expect Joe Burrow to take this leap from where he was last year to like Tom Brady, Ryan Tannehill levels now, I feel like is just
it's
crazy.
A huge leap. It's a lot to expect.
It's so much projection. It's just like, oh, I like Joe Burrow as a prospect. He's going to be a fantasy star. Let me draft him like that. I'm like, dude, we got a lot to see before that happens.
No, I'm with you. And so like, remember I in the little show notes thing, I had mentioned to you that like I had a couple of listener questions, and like, since you mentioned Superflex, one of them was like, what's the appeal to Superflex? Because like one of the people that had asked me, they're in their home league, like it's just it's a 2-flex half PPR league, and like some people want to switch to Superflex, some don't. So like, what would you say is the appeal of a Superflex league?
First off, I would say like you'll never speak to someone who goes to Superflex and wants to go back. All right. It's one of those things in life. Like there are a few things in life where you switch to it and you're like, I'm never going back to it. Superflex is one of those. What it does is it opens up a lot of different things within your league in terms of like engagement. One, the draft opens up like pretty tremendously, because obviously quarterbacks start to become valuable, a lot more valuable, so they go earlier in rounds, meaning you get more flexibility in the draft, right? Because you get a lot of good skill players later, like your favorite running back who's going, Najee Harris could be a 3rd round pick now in Superflex drafts. The other important thing is that it opens up the trade market like tremendously, because you add another piece. In a lot of fantasy leagues, quarterbacks don't really matter, tight ends don't really matter, so you're not trading those guys, but you throw quarterbacks in and it allows for you to trade a lot more different types of players, because now you could swap a quarterback for a running back. Say you drafted 3 quarterbacks, some guy's second quarterback gets hurt, you can flip him, because if he has 3 running backs, when normally no one's going to go running back for quarterback, right? No one's going to go probably running back for wide receiver, because everyone likes running backs, but quarterbacks start to have this value that's almost parallel to the running back position. So it opens up the trade market, it opens up the drafting market, the flexibility there. It opens up the waiver wire a little bit. The smaller your league is, the more likely it is to have more quarterbacks on the wire. But overall, I mean, it just makes the league a lot more fun. It's the same way that, like, when you switched from standard scoring to half PPR, it makes the player pool bigger, and it makes a lot more players exciting to pick. There's more strategy behind it. Same thing. I always think that we should be evening out all the player positions. That's why I've been more and more into tight end premium. A lot of the leagues that I do now are tight end premium, where they get a little bit extra on the PPR. A couple settings that I've done this offseason, I've done a few dynasty startups, and we do like a tiered PPR. So it's super flex.
Ooh, okay.
And we go half PPR for running backs, full for wide receivers, and 1.5 for tight ends. So it's like really evening out the playing fields, where it's like, yeah, we like running backs, but like wide receivers, you're starting 3 of them rather than 2. So the positional scarcity is a little bit less. And now tight ends get like an extra bump. So I think like evening out all of the positions throughout your fantasy lineups makes it more fun, because you get to attack it with such a different strategy. So I could not advocate for Superflex more than Miles Sanders last year. And that shit hurt to say.
I feel it, bro. Kind of the last little segment that I wanted to do fantasy wise, like, so in the little draft, the little note thing that I sent you, I had draft or pass, right? And so it was super hard to come up with a name still to this day. So I went tuck or untuck. You feel me? Because with the whole shirt tuck, that's what we doing today.
Let's go.
That's what we doing today. So I'm gonna give us 2 players from rounds 1 to 10, and we're gonna say whether we're tucking. If you tuck, that basically means you're tucking your shirt and you're ready to draft them, and come draft day, you're down for whatever. If you're untucking, that means you're getting messy. You want no part to do, no parts of that player. You want nothing to do with them.
I love it.
So boom, we just start with round 1, and round 1 was kind of difficult because I feel like everyone's a tuck. Like, in round 1, it's hard to find a bad player. So I tried to find someone that's like controversial, I guess. I went with Jonathan Taylor. I don't know if you want to say it at the same time. If you want to go first, I go first. Like, what you want to do here?
Let's go. Let's do it at the same time.
All right, cool.
Actually,
so,
I don't know if we're delayed. I don't think we're delayed.
I don't think we're delayed. All right, so I'll do 3, 2, 1. Say it, right? All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So Jonathan Taylor, 3, 2, 1. Tuck.
Untuck.
Oh,
I untucked it. Yeah.
That's crazy.
The more I've thought about it, the more I'm not as likely. You know what? With the Cam Akers news, though, he's a running back that probably jumps up a little bit for me now and maybe gets into the draftable range. It's just there was a lot of. He was a guy like a rookie last year where you couldn't start him until like week 10 or week 11. He finally took off, and it was against like the absolute worst
shittiest
in the NFL. Ever. And you're left wondering, was it just the elite prospect finally, getting his feet into his cleats, or was it just bullshit schedule? Is he actually like ready to take on a workhorse role? A lot of me says yes, but there are still a lot of like red flags there with Nyheim Hines taking the passing work. Carson Wentz is there instead of Rivers, so there's going to be less dump offs and screens. Marlon Mack is coming back from the Achilles. We'll see if that does him any good, but I still think there's a little bit left to be desired from Taylor's 2021 outlook.
So for me, this was a guy that like I told you, in my actual home league, I have the 8th pick, right? And so I was going back and forth on whether or not I believe in Jonathan Taylor, because I don't think they've done anything this offseason to prove to you that he's the guy, but you have to draft him like he is the guy.
Right.
And so it's tough for me. Like you said, it was a tale of 2 halves for him. From weeks 1 to 10, he was the RB18. And then from week 10 on, he was the RB3. So what half do you believe? I'm gonna choose to believe it was 3. I mean, it was the second half. I think that he's just like, he has that pedigree. He's a top prospect. I feel like he proved to Frank Reich and that coaching staff, at least, like, give me the rock and I will make things happen for us. I don't know what Carson Wentz is going to be like you said, the dump ball. Like, if Carson Wentz is a disaster, then it's going to look tough. But I'm going to believe in Jonathan Taylor this year. I do want to ask you though, Jonathan Taylor or Nick Chubb?
I'll probably take Taylor there.
Okay. I would take Taylor too. Jonathan Taylor or Austin Eckler?
What type of league?
Half PPR.
I'll probably take Eckler.
Ooh, I feel like that's a hot take.
Is it? You think it is?
I feel like it might be.
I've been getting really, really high on Eckler. I think it might be. I don't know. The more I look into this Chargers offense, the more I'm just like, Eckler seems fail-proof this year. He just seems like the floor of what he's going to do is so fucking high. And I think he has a little, Christian McCaffrey to his game, Aaron Jones to his game, where 200 carries would propel him to like top 3, top 5 fantasy running back.
I feel that. No, I'm with you. I'm with you, bro. I could very well be talked into an untuck for Jonathan Taylor, 100%. I'm not sold. I'm not sold. The next guy is also, I feel like, kind of controversial. Saquon Barkley. Some people are treating him like his name is Matt Barkley. Others, they're super down. So you want to go same time again?
Yeah.
All right, 3, 2, 1, tuck.
Tuck this shit in.
Let's go.
Yeah, Barkley's getting that tuck. Listen, I'm never gonna fucking disrespect the guy that looks the way Saquon Barkley looks. Mm-hmm. I don't know, actually. Like, the injury is obviously wildly concerning. But from everything I've seen, from the people that are actual doctors, there should not be a cause for concern on Barkley's return timetable. So I'm gonna proceed as if he's going to be pretty much fine going into the regular season until we hear otherwise.
And theoretically, this could be the best offense he's ever played in. You feel me? Because adding Kenny Golladay, and a lot of people are super down on Kenny Golladay. He's another one that I kind of want to get to later when we get to that round. But like, I'm down for Saquon Barkley. A lot of people are disrespecting him. He's one of the most talented running backs in the league. The only question mark for me is the whole Daniel Jones thing, but Saquon.
That's the only thing. Like, when you say, "Oh, this could be the best offense he has ever played with," that feels like an Allen Robinson thing. Like, every year it's like, this is the best quarterback he's ever played with, but it's literally just like flipping a piece of shit over. It went from Mitch Trubisky to Nick Foles. You know what I mean? It's like, we were excited about Nick fucking Foles last year. Mm-hmm. I feel like we're probably doing the same thing with the Giants offense this year. That storyline very rarely works out, I feel like.
I mean, you're not wrong at all. But we're both tucking Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley's a big tuck. Round two, we started off with the one and only, the wide receiver one for as many years as I can remember, except 2019, Davante Adams.
Tuck.
He's a big tuck for me as well.
Aaron Rodgers is going to be back. He's going to play this. He's going to play this year in Green Bay, and then he's going to get traded after this year. He'll be in Green Bay for one more year. Draft accordingly. So
he's put Nick's stamp of approval. Back. I'm nervous about Aaron, bro. I'm very nervous about Mr. A.A. Ron himself. I don't know if he wants to be a Green Bay Packer, and I don't think that I think the Packers have too much pride to let him go. So I think that it might just be a standoff, a standout, whatever they call this, a holdout. Yeah, that's what it's called. And one of those three. And which would severely diminish Davante Adams' value. From if Jordan Love is throwing him the ball, the type of balls he's getting thrown is not the same when you got
Jordan Love. I'm not even on. I'm shirtless. I'm not even untucked. Yeah, fuck that.
So, but I'm iffy on the Aaron Rodgers, but gun to my head, if I had to choose whether or not he would play in Green Bay, I would choose that he does.
I think he turned down that long-term extension because he doesn't want to be there long-term, but I don't think he's out of there before this year. I feel like it's getting a little bit too deep into the summer, where if there was going to be a trade, if anything was going to happen, if they had the right assets that Green Bay was like comfortable moving Rodgers for, I don't know. It's like, listen, the NFL season is not that far off. It's really like a month away, a month and a couple of weeks away. So they're pretty deep into it to make a major move like that at this point.
100%. Next guy, Joe Mixon. I'm tucking.
I'm
I'm
tucking
tucked.
as well. I'm
I'm
like on
tucked.
Mixon.
I'm tucked. Gio's gone. Could be a really good offense and passing attack. They've already proven that they're willing to make him a workhorse. Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd. Like I don't see what there's not what there isn't to like about that situation for him.
Yeah, it was always Gio holding it back for me. As long as Gio was there, he was not going to get the passing down work. And now, I mean, he's competing with Samaje Perine, who looks like who Samaje Perine basically ate Samaje Perine, and that's who he is at this point. But he'll get a couple carries, but like Mixon's got all 3 downs.
100%. Moving on to round 3. We already kind of spoke about Keenan Allen. I think we're both tucking Keenan Allen.
Big time tuck.
We don't need to say much more about that.
I got a belt on, tucked in. Let's go.
Suit and tie and everything for Keenan Allen. Next up in round 3, DeAndre Swift. I've untucked.
I've gone back and forth on this guy. I'm probably gonna untuck it as well. He was like a
I love that you actually untucked.
He was. I'm participating, man. I want to play the fucking game. He was like a late 2nd round pick early in the summer, and now he's like dropping to the end of the 3rd, early 4th. I feel like he's an easy fade in the 2nd. He's an easy smash in the 4th. 3rd round is where it gets dicey, man. It just feels like them bringing in Jamal Williams is
the scariest thing to me.
Very unsettling. Yeah. And this is like, it's easy to say, oh, look what Aaron Jones did when Jamal Williams was in the offense, but they were also averaging 30 points a game, where exactly. Aaron Jones can score 13 rushing touchdowns, 15 rushing touchdowns. I think he went for fucking 17 rushing touchdowns in a year. Like
the Lions could be the worst offense in the league this year.
But. Exactly. Like the upside on Swift should get a ton of passing work, but there are going to be games where Jamal Williams takes over and he gets 17 carries probably, and Swift, might score 6 rushing touchdowns or something. So I'm very cooled off on Swift.
100%. Moving on to round 4. So for round 4, I had Miles Sanders.
I don't like that sound. Okay.
I had Miles Sanders.
So we could run through that. Untucked.
I'm pretty sure we're untucked. Jamar Chase.
I'm going to untuck that. I feel like just rookie wide receivers in general. I know we've seen
everyone's
a lot of them
super high because
we've seen a lot of them explode. Yeah, we've seen a lot of them explode over recent years, but more often than not, like you play the percentages and it's not going to work in favor. And it was okay to draft them when you got to draft them with some room to fuck up, right? Like normally these rookies that explode, you get them in like the 8th, 9th, 10th, 12th. Like Justin Jefferson was probably a 16th round pick or something last year.
But you're damn near drafting Jamar Chase at his ceiling,
right? Like his ceiling is like 1,000 yards this year, probably. I don't like 1,000 yards does not really entice me from my 4th round pick. Like I want DeAndre Swift in the 4th round if I can get him there. I want a wide receiver in the 4th round that has 1,200, 1,500 yards, even though maybe they're riskier than Chase is. I don't know. 4th round pick for Chase is wildly untucked.
I also untucked, by the way. So boom, we're really on the same page here today. Round 5. I had Kenny Galladay, but I feel like we kind of spoke on that. So Brandon Ayuk.
I'm gonna untuck in round 5. It's a little early for my liking. I think there are too many good passing options. I do think that he is the making of an alpha, and I do think he will surpass Deebo Samuel from a talent level really quickly. But we have Kittle, Deebo, Ayuk in a passing offense that's not a passing offense. Like they're a run first offense. If Trey Lance gets on the field, that's another 8 to 10 rushes a game. It's just going to be like, okay, he would need to have, in order for him to average like 8 targets a game on an offense that throws the ball 30 times, he would need to have like an absurd like 27 to 28% target share. And I don't see how the math works out for Ayuk to be returning. I mean, probably a good floor play, but I don't see how he returns value in the 5th round.
I was also untucking on Ayuk. Kyler Murray in round 5. I tucked. I tucked all the way. I tucked
big
all
tuck.
the way
I'm
down.
tucking into my socks.
My underwear. Yeah. Boom.
Straight
socks,
into my fucking shoes and shit. Yeah. Yeah, Kyler, I'm definitely on board with Kyler. I think even in like a single quarterback league, he's unbelievable. Like what he did last year before he got hurt was absurd numbers. Now being healthy, they add Rondell Moore to the mix, 3rd year in Cliff's offense. So hopefully that fucking means something other than just like wasting my breath on a podcast. But I'm very much in on Kyler, bro. He was the first 10 games. I think he didn't go under like 24.8 fantasy points in a single game. I'm like that. I didn't realize that until like a week or two ago. And it was like the craziest stat I've ever seen.
He's insane. I feel like the upside for him is huge on the ground, through the air. Like he's he's just unstoppable.
For real.
Round 6, Devonta Smith, another Eagle. We untucked Miles Sanders, but I'm tucking Mr. Devonta Smith.
Smith is a guy where if he creeps into the 6th round, I'm probably going to look elsewhere. But I think in a lot of friends and family leagues, you'll be able to get him later, which I'm in for. I think he's one of the few rookies that does have like that 1,000-yard receiving upside. I think he comes in as the alpha immediately in the Eagles offense that is like wildly devoid of playmakers, especially on the outside. They have Jalen Reagor, who's going to move into the slot this year, and behind him, they literally don't have another wide receiver to play the outside. So I think I think he goes into 100 to 110 targets ASAP. It's going to come down to whether or not Jalen Hurts can deliver those accurately. They've got some chemistry because they played together at Alabama, obviously, for a year. But Devonta Smith, I think he's a risk worth taking in a couple leagues because the upside is definitely there.
The next 6th round player, I have Javonte Williams. I untucked. I know a lot of people are high on him, but like it's fuck Melvin Gordon. I hear that from a lot of places
everywhere.
But like I just don't really want in the 6th round. I feel like this is well known as the RB dead zone, and he's one of those running backs for me. I don't really want to take him here. I would rather be taking the wide receivers on the board in round 6 than take a shot on Javonte Williams. Some people see a lot of potential in the Broncos offense. If everything hits exactly how it's supposed to hit, then sure, I can see that, but I just don't foresee that exactly happening. And I don't really want the running back on this team, on this offense.
I'm with you. I'm not I'm going to untuck on Javonte right now until I don't know. I think I want to see the preseason games. I want to see how they split the first team snaps between the two, because I still feel like it's just going to be Melvin Gordon being the starter and not necessarily getting starter touches. But even if Melvin Gordon's out there and gets like 12, 13, 14 touches a game, doesn't really leave a lot of room for Javonte Williams to be like a workhorse. He could be one of those guys again. Maybe he's a cheaper version of like Travis Etienne, where the rookie we get hyped about, draft him really early, is a big piece of the offense in weeks 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Depends whether or not you want to kind of sit him there. Because, I mean, they've used a committee over the last few years in Denver, and I feel like that's going to be the case. There's also a chance that this offense tanks again. Like, what if Drew Lock is just terrible? What if Teddy
What if he's just bad? Like,
you know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's also a lot of red flags with Javonte. So I'm not like sold on Javonte enough as a pure prospect to be like, I'm going to buy in on him for redraft right now until like Melvin Gordon's still very much there, and he's still going to get a lot of touches.
I'm with you. Kind of getting to the back end of this whole thing, round 7. I feel like we can get through this one. Justin Herbert, we both tucked, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Justin, big tuck on Justin Herbert. Laviska Shenault. I personally untucked just because I feel like in round, like the hype, I feel like round 7 might be the floor of where he ends up getting to, because the hype on every other day I see a Laviska Shenault hype tweet, hype video. I think he's a great athlete. I think he's a great weapon, which is what Urban Meyer is looking for in that whole RPO offensive scheme. I don't know how good of a receiver he is. And so I'm gonna untuck. I'm not passing on Laviska Shenault. Like, I would take him. I'm just not that high. Like, I'm lower on him than everyone else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he's an untuck for me. He's actually, I think I'm probably actively fading him. It just feels like this Jaguars offense, they're going to have more fucking Sports Center top 10 plays than actual like top 10 players in fantasy. You know what I mean? Like, they're just they're gonna have highlight plays because Urban Meyer is gonna keep moving them around the formation and like doing weird fucking trick plays all the time. But who knows what that's gonna lead to in terms of volume? It could be a thing where Laviska catches 4 balls a game and gets like 2 or 3 carries. I'm just like, I just don't see a lot of upside there. I think it's gonna be a run first offense too. I do think it's actually gonna run through James Robinson and Carlos Hyde and some touches of Travis Etienne or whatever. But I don't think the volume will be there enough for Laviska to like really separate himself from DJ Chark and Marvin Jones and Travis Etienne as a pass catcher.
100%. I think Marvin Jones actually a pretty good value, to be honest. But
yeah, me too.
Round 8, the 2 I got in here, we can start it off with Jarvis Landry. I untucked. I don't really want a receiver, whether it's Odell or Jarvis on this Browns offense. Jarvis had a single top 12 finish in all of 2020, and now it's with Odell basically missing damn near the entire year. I just don't see myself taking Jarvis Landry in any of my drafts.
I'm tucked on Jarvis. I've come around a little bit. He's been the same player for like the last 4 years. And I was looking at numbers last year because I remember I'm pretty high on Baker this year. I'm definitely higher on consensus on Baker. And I think a lot of the reason people are down on the offense, one, they're obviously run heavy, but they had that stretch. There was 3 games in a row
The weather.
where, yeah, Baker legitimately averaged 12 completions a game for 3 straight games. And it's like when you discount those games, Jarvis Landry is back to averaging 11 half PPR fantasy points a game, exactly what he was the 3 years prior. So I just think he's a very solid staple of this passing offense. He doesn't give you any sort of upside, but I think whereas you normally have to draft him in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, you're starting to get him later and later and later in drafts, and you still are getting like a flex spot that you can just get 10 points a game from. So I'm tucking on Jarvis.
So would you rather have Landry or Laviska?
I'll probably take Landry.
All right. Wait. Another one. Landry or Devonta Smith?
I'll take Smith there.
Me too. I'm with you there. Next round 8 guys was Raheem Mostert. I untucked just because it is going to be a run heavy offense from I believe, and I'm just higher on Trey Sermon. Like I think you can get Trey Sermon a couple rounds later and maybe produce damn near the same value and take someone else in round 8 than take Raheem Mostert here.
No, they won't produce the same value because Trey Sermon's about to pop the fuck off. I'm untucked on. I'm all the way untucked on Mostert because I'm all in on Sermon.
So is he like your Miles Sanders? Is that what we are? Do we not want to send the Juju?
Yeah, chill.
I feel you.
Don't send Miles towards him. He needs to stay far, far away from that. I'm in on Sermon though. I'm very sold on him as a player.
Yeah, I'm big on Trey Sermon. Round 9. So we only got round 9, round 10 left. Round 9, Mr. Ronald Jones. This was a guy I had last year before they signed Leonard Fournette, so he severely fucked my team. So I am gonna go untucked, to be honest. I've got a little bit of bias, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm gonna untuck on Ronald Jones. I want a piece of this running game. I really do because they're gonna score so many points. But I actually prefer Leonard Fournette. I feel like they showed you what they preferred at the end of last year. Like Fournette went off the entire playoffs. He went crazy.
Yeah.
He was the preferred pass catching back. We'll have to see what happens with Gio. One of these guys probably won't make the team. It might be Keyshawn Vaughn. It might be Gio. If Gio's cut, then I think it's wheels up for Uncle Lenny, and he's going later and later into the round. So I think you kind of got to choose between one of the two and just give me the guy who probably has pass catching upside in Fournette. So I'm going to untuck on Rojo.
Imagine Gio got cut and like the Bengals just signed him.
Yo, they could use a pass catching back.
Oh, the next guy, kind of back to that Broncos offense, Noah Fant. I've seen a lot of people high on Noah Fant when it comes to tight ends. Like I said, everyone's always looking for that tight end sleeper that's going to pop off. The Hayden Hursts of 2019, the TJ Hawkinsons of last year, and the Darren Wallers of the year before. And so, like, some people believe that Noah Fant is that guy. I don't believe that Noah Fant is that guy. I'm untucked on Noah Fant. Like I said, I just don't really want a piece of the Broncos offense. I'm cool without having that Broncos offense. Like I said with ETN, I'm cool with missing the breakout. If he does pop off this year, then cool. I'll just take him next year. But I'd rather take a guy like Higbee, or even later, like I don't even want to say my sleeper, but Adam Troutman. I like him. I like Adam Troutman.
Fair. He's a popular sleeper pick.
And so
I'm gonna wear a button down where like the bottom of it is like flapping around, and I'll tuck one half in. I'll keep one half untucked on Noah Fant. I don't really have a hard take on him, to be honest. The Broncos offense is just such a tricky one to try to project for 2021, man. You have Jerry Jeudy, who's a crazy route runner. You got Sutton coming back from the ACL. Fant's obviously wildly athletic. We have no idea what's going to happen at quarterback. We have no idea what's going to happen at running. We literally don't know fucking anything about this offense. Like, you can't look at any position and tell me like what's going to come out of it. So with Fant, it's like, I don't know. Like, I'm not comfortable taking him at his ADP, but like I'll be comfortable in a draft if he drops to me around or something. So not an active fade, not an active target. I'll probably sound dumb in about a year from now for saying this though.
Hey, I mean, it will sound dumb together, so no big deal. Round 10, final round, we have Mr. Corey Davis.
Is he really a 10th round pick?
I was going through Underdog, right? And I was like, there's no way. But when I put QB, wide receiver, tight end, and looked at all of the ADPs and everything, he was in the 10th round.
Yeah, I guess people are just I guess you have to assume he's the number one there, right? And he's going to get the most targets. Like, he's going to get a really boring 90 to 100 targets. So I don't really love the 10th round price on him. but he's not someone I'm probably going to fade. I think Elijah Moore is probably the guy that is getting a lot more excitement right now because he's a buzzy rookie, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it's probably rightfully so. I think he's a really, really he's a guy that you should keep a very close eye on. He's one of those guys that, like, with rookie wide receivers, I don't tend to draft them, but if they pop off very early on in the year, you start to see him getting more playtime. They're the guys you should be using your waiver wire priorities on very, very quickly, because we've seen them assimilate to offenses like, T. Higgins last year, Chase Claypool, Justin Jefferson, all those guys. They show the glimpses of it, and you're like, you have to be picking those up. I feel like Elijah Moore could be a guy like that who comes off week 1, 5 for 75 and a touchdown or something like that, and then just continues to be the guy there. So I will probably stay untucked on Corey Davis because he's just too fucking boring.
And keep in mind, like, the ADPs on Underdog are pretty juiced. Like, anyone that has any kind of hype is higher than they would typically be.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. But kind of the last guy to end this whole game, Tuck or Untuck out, we have the one and only Mr. James Conner. I myself, I haven't done it all podcasts, but I'm tucking on James Conner.
All right.
I've touched on James Conner. I feel like if you put him in that same Kenyon Drake role, Kenyon Drake got a shit ton of touches. He wasn't even bad. He was the RB12 in standard leagues last year. If Conner even like Kenyon Drake had the 4th most carries in the red zone, 3rd most carries inside the 5. If James Conner takes like 70% of that, he should outperform his ADP. And so I'm tucked on James Conner. I am. As hard as it is to believe, I'm tucked on James Conner.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm necessarily like tucked on James Conner. Like, I want to draft him. I just know he's going to piss more people off than not that expect Chase Edmonds to be the guy. Like, James Conner is going to play a big fucking role in this offense. He's going to play the Drake role because Chase Edmonds has, this is a stat I tweeted out like last week, which is insane when I found it out, but he has 1 career goal line carry. Like, Chase Edmonds has played 48 games or whatever it is, 3-4 years worth of games. I forget what the actual number was, but he has 1 career goal line carry. He's never topped 100 carries in a given season.
That's insane.
I mean, Cliff's been there the entire time that Chase has. So Cliff has told you exactly how he feels about Chase, and it's not being the featured workhorse running back. Yeah, he'll catch a lot of passes, but a lot of that is going to be James Conner's role. So yeah, you know what? I'm like definitely I think there's a spot in drafts right around the 10th round where you have guys that that they're boring, but they're going to get volume. It's like James Conner. It's all the guys that were going in like the 3rd round last year. James Conner, David Johnson, Gus Edwards, not 3rd round last year, but like still a guy who's going to have a lot of early down work and probably their team's goal line work, where I think that's like a really good spot to secure your, 3rd, 4th, 5th back, wherever you are in your draft. And then after that, like, the tiers drop all the way the fuck off. So I'll tuck it in with you for Conner there.
Boom. And so that ends the game. Tuck or untuck, bro. I'm thank you for participating. I think it was a damn successful idea, to be honest.
My favorite. Anytime I could fucking tuck my shirt in, I will participate to the 110th degree.
Exactly. I 100% love it. And so I'm gonna let you go, bro. I know you got things to do tonight. I want to say I do appreciate you for coming on the pod, bro. Is there anything you want to plug? Everybody that's listening to this knows you, but go ahead.
No, man, just thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun. I'm honestly thinking about stealing the Tuck or Untuck as a segment on my own show. So
go ahead, bro. Do your thing.
You see that pop off, I apologize in advance. But no, it was a lot of fun. You guys could find me on YouTube, just Nick Ercolano. Just, full name. If you Google it, you'll probably be able to find it wherever. But that's all for now. And thanks again for having me.
Of course, bro. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get up on out of here. Make sure you guys subscribe to the Run It Up Pod on Apple Podcasts. Leave that rating and review. Download the pod on Spotify. Share it with your friends and family. You can find me on Twitter at @NajeeAdams_. The pod on Twitter is at Run It Up Pod. I hope you guys have a litty day, a litty night, a litty life. And just like we do every episode of this podcast, make sure y'all go run it up. Boom. Let's
go.
That.
Perfect.
Boom.